Hello everyone, and welcome back to Informers War for Cybertron. Last time we went through Mission 1, and the story so far. Megatron invaded Starscream's orbital station with the aim to acquire a new and powerful energy source called Dark Energon, with which he hopes to be able to win the war against the Autobots. And the assault went well for them, and at the end, Starscream wanted to join Megatron to gain the same power he wields, because, well, he's Starscream, it's what he does. And Jetfire flew off to warn Zeta Prime of this treachery. So, now we will begin Mission 2, in which we will play some aerial transformers. Now, as you can see, we have the three standard, the three classic Decepticon jet transformers. There is, of course, Starscream, and we have Skywarp, and we have Thundercracker. I will be going with Starscream because, well, duplicitous bastard that he is, I still kinda like him.
Anxious to prove themselves worthy of the Decepticon name, Starscream and his minions fly to Cybertron. There, they must reconnect the Energon bridge that will enable Megatron to manufacture more Dark Energon and conquer the Autobots once and for all.
Your orders are clear, Starscream. Infiltrate the Cybertron underground and reactivate the Energon bridge. I want that power online.
Megatron! Thundercracker has detected several Autobots up ahead. Jetfire must have warned Zeta Prime and moved to intercept us already.
Enough of your whining. If the Autobots try to stop you, crush them. Report back to me when you have found the bridge. Megatron out!
That imbecile thinks I'm expendable? Me? He'll soon learn never to underestimate Starscream.
Yep, some classic Megatron Starscream banter there. It's very clear that the High Moon Studios are big fans of the Transformers and how they are depicted in the games. Now, before I start the actual commentary, let me just show you some cool stuff with the aerial Transformers. Like, you could just transform, fly off, but that's for boring people. What you need to do is jump, transform, and boost off. That's what the cool kids do, because that's awesome. Now, I did forget to mention some stuff last time, like Jetfire and Starscream. Those two have always had a bit of a relationship, especially if you go after the animated series. After one of his schemes had gotten him thrown out of the Decepticons for a while, Starscream happens upon a crashed Cybertronian vessel in, I believe it was the Arctic, and as he uncovers it, he finds Jetfire inside. And they used to be part of the same science team back on Cybertron, so Starscream manages to get the Jetfire to help him. And it actually seems like quite significant help, because Jetfire is huge. Absolutely enormous compared to most other Transformers. There aren't many that are bigger than him. And yeah, but despite his size, he's not very warlike. He's much more of a gentle giant. He prefers science and discovery over war and fighting. And the other thing I forgot to mention was, well, the popularity of the Transformers franchise was not strongest in the US. Like, the animated series was far more popular in Japan than it was anywhere else, and as such acquired a couple of extra seasons there, mostly including the Headmasters and featuring such Transformers as Metroplex and yeah. I haven't actually watched it, but I have read about it, so that's pretty much all I can say about it. It's more about Rodimus Prime and Galvatron and stuff like that, even though Optimus is supposed to be back. And then they, of course, as soon as the Headmasters came into it, it was also Fortress Maximus and Scorponok. And as for the comics, they were a huge hit in the UK. Much more so than in the US. So much, in fact, that even though the Transformers comics had reached full syndication, it was not enough to satisfy the UK market, so they actually had to hire their own team of artists and writers and such. Just to satisfy demand.
What is that? An Autobot probe. We should avoid it to prevent detection.
Like that puny probe could stop me! Blast them and get on with it!
Yeah, and
Alright, let's do it.
a lot of the UK comics are basically where we get a lot of what is considered canon today. Like, they introduced Sentinel Prime, they had Megatron and Optimus's first origin story, and probably several other things that I'll discover as I'm reading through them, because I just managed to acquire a copy of the entire UK run. I have read some, like with the Death's Head, the bounty hunter, and how he took out Shockwave on the behest of Unicron, which was a bit of a strange series of comics, to be honest, but pretty cool nonetheless. So yeah.
I have never traveled this deeply into Cybertron's interior before. You're as boring as ever, Thundercracker.
But yeah, the comics that were ported over to Norway were a mix between the US and the UK comics. And at the time, UK comics were shorter than US comics, but even though they split every issue, they reprinted from the US in two, it still was far from enough, so yeah. And also you might have noticed the glowy blue stuff around here. That's Energon. Pure Energon. Raw. And it turns out raw Energon is not something that Transformers can actually handle. They need to get it processed. I assume earlier versions of Transformers were somehow able to tap into it, but the modern Transformers are not. They need to have it refined. Yeah. Starscream.
Sound the alarm! What is this? Some kind of stupid Autobots! To think their measly tricks could ever fool Starscream!
Yeah, as you can tell, Starscream is very confident of himself and his superiority over everyone else, and that's actually been his biggest downfall traditionally. He's thought way too highly of himself and hadn't realized things were going against him until it was too late. Yeah. So people know him as the eternal number 2, always behind Megatron, always scheming to overthrow him and take the leadership of the Decepticons for himself, and he's filled that role with every Decepticon leader, whether it was Megatron, Galvatron, Shockwave, or Ratbat. And I'm sure a lot of you might be saying, what? Ratbat, Decepticon leader? And yes, he was, in the Marvel comics at least. The ones that not a lot of people have read, as far as I've been able to tell. Look at these two chumps. But yeah, with that vague segue, let me talk about one of the times that Starscream actually, well, at least almost managed to pull off a plan. Plan to not just take over the Decepticons, but rule the entire universe. But first, we're going to listen to Zeta Prime talk.